Hi everybody, I'm Varun Gwalani
I'm Pranika Sharma.
I'm Aakriti Patni.
and welcome to the Reading Room. Today we'll be discussing episode 7, which is Strike You Dumb, and we'll be welcoming back Aakriti Patni, our avid reader and dissector of the novel year. So today we, like I said, we'll be discussing the 7th season of our novel year, which is called Strike You Dumb.
That's right.
So Strike You Dumb, to give you a little bit of background, is about a priest who, to put it politely, preys on his followers. He similar to CK that we noticed that we spoke about in the second story. The priest is somebody who uses fear and paranoia and skepticism trapped up in a sort of religious bounds and uses it to influence for his followers and peddle influence as a whole for himself. Right? CK in fact makes an appearance within the story as well as a bunch of other characters from the rest of the series. Mac is here, CK is here. We have the pharmacist here from story 9. We have Alia here from the series as a whole. So there is a wide interlap here, and there is a specific event, which is a sort of flashpoint for the series, where protesters sort of clash with the people, the congregation of this priest, the father of truth, as he calls himself, and we get to see in action the sort of clash of ideologies that have taken place within the series. Ultimately, of whether the ideology of truth, so to speak, or ideology of truth. Yeah. So let's dive into it. Pranika?
Okay, lovely. Great introduction. As Varun pointed out, we're nearing the end game. We have our main sort of sides coming up and battling it out in a way. But very importantly, we have the character of the priest who's at the center of it all. And I want to pose it to both of you, Aakriti and Varun. What did you think about the priest? What did you think about his character as a whole? How did he come across? Did you like him, hate him? Let's start with Aakriti.
Okay, sure. What did I think of the priest? So I think he was a very complex character. I actually found him quite interesting and more relatable than the other characters, to be honest, because I feel like I've seen more of his kind in my world. So it instantly I could connect with the kind of speech he gave, the kind of, disciples he had, and the power that he yielded over them. And I understood the attraction they had for him. Just I can understand why they're there. And especially in COVID, I feel it's such an important character because a lot more people are turning towards just a higher god or what they perceive as god or just a spirit because they're scared and they want to believe in some unknown kind of a deity or a person who's going to bring them that sense of calm. So I thought that's what the priest's role was, and I think he was written quite interestingly because I almost felt as if, in India we have a lot of these kind of personalities, and since the story is completely in English, that's there's a difference that comes in because I've seen them talk in Hindi, a lot of these kind of personalities in life that I've seen. So I felt that was like a little bit of a jarring difference for me when I was reading it. But I do think that he's not super hateful. Like when I read the second story or even the first story, Welcome to 2020, those are the characters you do feel hatred towards. I kind of didn't feel that for this priest. I'm not sure why. That's what I thought about it. What actually, I would want to ask one question while he answers what he thought of the priest. Did you think this character would be the most hated, or did you write it out to be as like one of the most hateful characters in your story?
All right, I'm going to repeat my speech again, guys. So, as I've said plenty of times during this series, Pranika asked me this question once when she read the first draft of the story. She's like, "Do you hate your characters, Varun?" Like, no, I don't. I don't hate my characters, and I didn't hate the priest either. As I said before, I think the priest is just another thread in the tapestry of humanity, if you want to be fancy about it. Yeah. So I think that he's someone who, see, that the ultimate question that people should ask about the father is not whether he's hateful or not. The question that they should ask is whether does he believe his own words or not. That is ultimately, I think, the most interesting question to me, and I think that a reader should ask. That was what I wanted the readers to ask more than anything. Whatever they felt about him, I wanted them to know that does he believe it or not, and then does it matter, right? Because if he believes what he's saying, he becomes hateful, but he becomes a little more sympathetic.
Yeah.
But if he doesn't believe what he's saying, he becomes maybe the worst one. So
Right.
it's really up to you. It depends. I've left that purposefully open to interpretation because a lot of this series and a lot of COVID denialism is about the mental sort of yarn that people string themselves up in, right? The spider webs that they catch themselves up in, loopholes and acrobatics sort of that they keep doing to try and avoid thinking about something, right? So the priest in essence wants to avoid or does not want to think about this because it suits his purposes, right? So what he wraps himself up in is ultimately the key. Yes, he's wrapped himself up in religion, and he's using the sword of religion to sort of advocate this prophecy or this belief, right? Whether that's acceptable to you or not is dependent, honestly, on a lot of people's personal experiences, because a lot of people feel victimized by religion, right? A lot of people feel victimized by the idea of religion because they don't because they know how religion has harmed them personally, right? But a lot of people understand that religion also is a man-made thing, and that a lot of people can either believe it or not believe it, and that's up to them. And the priest is just one of those kind of people, right? So that it sort of depends. I found that the personal reaction varies because of that, right? The priest, again, my main idea in creating him was to make sure that he comes across as someone who believes his ideology. Whether he actually believes it or not is irrelevant. To me, to the reader, it's supremely important. But I want the priest to come off as someone who believably believes his religion. He's not a charlatan, knowing charlatan. Like CK, like he is worse than CK in a way, because CK would lack the facilities to introspect deeply, right? But the priest has the facilities to introspect deeply, and he has gone deeper, and he sort of built a maze inside him, deep inside him, so that he doesn't have to get to the truth, because the truth then becomes irrelevant.
Yeah.
I hope that did not get too abstract. It felt like it did. I felt like I was preaching there.
To analyze the brief.
But yes.
So I have a question now for Pranika. Yes. So just for everyone's knowledge, this is Pranika's favorite story. Right? She came to the story.
Absolute favorite.
Absolute favorite. She came to the story and she asked me like a dozen times, "Do we have to do the story? Are you sure we can't cut it? We can sit with 9. It's fine. It's not necessary. Maybe you can do like a completely different character and keep it."
Yes.
So Pranika, what were your thoughts on this story? What made it so polarizing for you? Polarizing is a polite word.
I mean, I didn't hate it that much. It wasn't that bad. But I guess
Thanks.
when I
Those are rousing words of confidence from your editor. Not that bad. That's exactly
hey,
what you
I
wanted to
mean,
hear.
to what it is, the way it is today, I love it. But the way it was the first time I got it,
Okay, so what were your challenges? What did you want? What did you
yeah.
want to instill in?
So I think the main reason why I absolutely hated it, to be honest,
She
was
said, "Not hate now, huh? Aakriti, you're my witness."
no. The reason why I found this story to be very challenging was because of the perspective. To be honest, because how the story is told, the way it is. It's a first person perspective, right? And you have this priest out there and he's preaching, and he has this immense sense of um self.
Self righteousness.
Yeah, he has that, and that's what, like, just it sort of, like, would you as a person, if you're talking or thinking, you wouldn't sort of have that outrightly there on top of your nose. That's what sort of had me rethinking the entire story. That's why the first thing I told Varun was that let's have it in third person. Let's not do it in first person. And
So yeah, no good.
yeah, so I think that was one of the sort of ways. But again, the story is very important to our universe and how sort of it flows, because it has one of our main incidents, and which is why when we sort of looked at it as editor and author and all the challenges, the first thing that I wanted to tell Varun was to strengthen that speech, because the speech that he delivers needs to be so powerful that being, like, if I was listening to it as an audience, I needed to sort of believe each and every word of it that he's saying, so that I would sort of risk my life, right? His disciples are risking his life for just being there without a mask and things like that in a crowded room. So I think that was one of the biggest challenges that we faced as while we were writing the story, and we've altered it quite a bit to what it is now, and I do love it now.
Very diplomatic answer. So, to piggyback off what Pranika was saying, so there's this particular thing when writing first person, especially first person present tense, because I love to make things difficult for everybody. So, is that you have to narrate things as they come. And what Pranika pointed out, the particular bit that she pointed out was that you have to write thoughts authentically as they come, right? So certain things, while they may be good for exposition, might not be actually what the reader says or what the character says, right? So you have to find a way to exposit the character's actual feelings and emotions, while at the same time being authentic to their thought process. And that can be difficult with a character that is complex, because you have to anyway show five multiple layers. It becomes even harder when you can't tell what you're trying to say.
Exactly why I don't like the story.
Yeah, but we managed it. Okay,
We did
managed it.
manage
We are
it
cool
well.
like that.
I think Aakriti can give in our perspective if we did manage it or not.
Did we manage it, Aakriti?
We
Remember,
did.
you're on camera.
No,
No pressure.
I think you did manage it. I thought the story was great, actually, quite entertaining, and the priest was a very interesting character to read. Like I said, I actually like the character. You know.
Okay, lovely. I think so moving on from the priest and his speech, we have our big incident, which sort of comes and goes throughout the series. We have this incident; it plays a pivotal role, right, for a lot of it. So, why don't we start talking about that, and what were your thoughts about that? The bit where Alia comes in and she organizes the protest, and yeah, I let's go with Akriti first again.
Yeah.
I thought that was I had a couple of thoughts about that. I didn't think it made complete sense. One thing I picked up on, I don't know if that was intentional or if it wasn't, but when the priest notices Alia for the first time, he describes her and he describes her dressing sense, but he doesn't notice the fact that she's wearing a mask, which I found like he would, especially since, right after that, it goes like the mask and the maskless lunge at each other and start the riot and the fight. So I thought it was interesting that he didn't pick up on that detail because he hates the fact that people are bearing themselves with masks. And the first thing he says about his disciples is none of them are wearing masks when he comes out for his speech on the stage. So that's one question. Was it intentional or not? And what was the thought process behind that? And second, for Alia, it's just why would she come into such a crowd and talk about staying at home when that sounds kind of hypocritical because she's not staying at home. Had she been sending this message over Zoom or sending like a secret video chat to all their phones, I would still get that. But I didn't quite rationalize that thought process. Like, even if she is maintaining a distance, wearing the mask, the point is to stay away from people and to be in a lockdown and to stay at home. So, what was the thought process behind that as well?
Uh, so, so I don't think that the preacher was particularly interested in her mask. I don't think he was particularly interested in even noticing that. I don't know if it even registered to him in his head, because they were looking at each other and they were looking at each other with such viciousness and such that actually factors in quite later. How the priest was looking at Alia, how his viciousness sort of affected her, right? Then when it comes to the protest, if you are familiar with 2020, the Black Lives Matters protest that took place during that time, there were people out on the street during that time for those reasons as well, right? It was, even though it was a pandemic, people still had to get out to protest, because the thing is, to Alia and people who are like Alia. Again, so now this is a fair point that you bring up, but is again something that I have offered no judgment on, because that's not the point, right? So Alia now goes out and she is protesting this because Alia and people like Alia believe that that it's worth the cause, right? It's worth getting sick, and it's worth actually risking their own lives, because they need to talk about something that is bigger than them, right? They believe that the protest will have a tangible effect and will actually prevent further gatherings like this, right? They feel like they need to do it because their lives are at risk in other ways as well, right? Because remember, they're not just protesting this one. They're not just protesting the preacher. They're protesting CK also, right?
Mm-hmm.
And CK has been a huge cause of misinformation. And they believe that by protesting CK, they diminish her reach, not realizing that they are, in a way, again, giving her the notoriety she craves. That
Yeah.
is another aspect to it. But
Mhm.
what you say is a fair point, but that's the thing. Even though Alia is a hero, so to speak, right? She's still a young girl who is learning a lot of things, who is still not knowing, who doesn't know how to navigate the world, a world that is constantly oppressed against her, right? Because she's facing people like double, triple her age sometimes. No, and she's having to do it the best she can. But
Correct.
and there's no one to guide her. So she
Mhm.
has to do the best she can with the tools she has, and she's surrounded with this cadre of people who are similarly inclined to do something. So that zeal to do something is more important to them than their lives. Like specifically in the case of the Black Lives Matter protests, they said that we're being killed by cops anyway. What does it matter if COVID kills us? That's an example of thinking, right? Because it doesn't matter if this is going to kill us, if we're going to die anyway, right? And if you see in the 10th story as well, Alia is protesting again for access to healthcare for minorities, which is again a very pressing issue because minorities are disproportionately affected by sickness. So even in this case, if Alia feels that she protests, even she's putting herself at risk, other people, or the greater good, so to speak, will be served by. So again, it's both of them are believing they're doing it for the greater good.
Yeah.
Whatever, however true both of them are, is left up to you to decide. And that's the interpretation that is at the heart of the series. That is what the ending of the series also is, which we will not spoil now, but that is also shows the core of the series, which is interpretation.
Yeah.
Which is why each story is written in first person present, right? Because
Yeah.
it's saying exactly what the character thinks, and it's up to you to interpret what they're thinking to be true or not, or honest or not, or good or not. That's up to you. But
Yep.
yeah,
I think what would answer Akriti's question, and I think for a lot of readers as well, when they go and read the entirety of the series, you sort of realize that this is like a pivotal incidental point. Over here, you're just seeing the incident as is, and then when you read stories which are coming previous to this one and after this one, you realize the hows and whys and whens of it, because a lot of it, like for example the mask bit, as a reader I know she's wearing a mask because it's mentioned previously in another story, and which is why the mention of her wearing a mask by the priest was not required, probably. And similarly, for her being in that position in the crowded sort of protest that she's holding, she is naive. She's a character who doesn't understand a lot of the world, but at the same time, she has her reasoning for it. And I think we need to read Alia's story to sort of go back and understand that.
spoiler alert. So
Yes.
this incident, as Pranika points out, is actually shown in two different ways, right? The confrontation of between the priest and Alia. So priest sees it one way and Alia sees it one way. That also shows how dramatically different the same incident can be viewed by two different people.
Yeah, exactly. And two different groups of people, because
Two
it's
different
not,
groups of people,
yeah,
representative of. Yeah.
correct, that's right. Because we have, in a way, I mean, when you read the series, you will automatically pick sides. Even if you do it unintentionally, then yeah, you'll automatically sort of have that bit. But I think we've gone on for a bit. So, just to sort of conclude, I think, Varun, my last question to you, as always, is what was the inspiration? Why do you think this
What
story?
is the influence behind this influenza? Okay. I mean, a lot of the characteristics of the preacher were taken from real life people. He was the only person. Yeah, he was the only person in the series that actually like looked up certain figures and looked at their mannerisms and listened to their speeches and listened to their like patterns, speech patterns and things like that, and sort of mimic those patterns, that braggadocious nature, that bombastic nature, right? I sort of took from those, and because a lot of these people have who go around telling people that COVID is fake, while at the same time raking in donations and getting private jets, right? So these are the kind of people that are very much in the world, and I wanted to show a preacher just like that in real life and how those sorts of things would influence it in real life. But make it less comic, because when you look at people like that, they are pretty comic. But I wanted to make a less comic version of that, a more serious
A more serious, a more.
version of that.
I think, yeah, that's where the speech also comes in. Well,
Correct.
but yes, I think we've had a very nice, lovely discussion. Lots of spoilers for our audience. I'm very sorry about that.
Go read your book.
Go read it. Go read it now.
Go read it now.
Yes. Go read it. Tell us what you thought about in the comments, and we will see you for the next series very, very soon.
Yes.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye.